Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, November 18th. If you are just tuning in, we just went over Daniel Jones, his benching by the New York Giants, the former 6th overall pick in the draft, now benched for the presumably rest of his career. He should get another opportunity somewhere else as a backup, I think. In this segment, we turn our attention to college football. Another week, another crazy Saturday with plenty of playoff implications, teams eliminated, and much more. We'll talk about the winners of a wild Week 12 coming up in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, November 18th. But like I was saying, in this segment, we are going to get into the college football world. As we do every Monday, heavy college football focus. We're going to start off with the winners. Every single week, 5 winners, 5 losers. Here are our top 5 winners of the week. It was a big week for the Heisman race, a big week for some playoff contenders, and a big week for some teams trying to make the bowl. And we're going to start right there. A team in Kansas that has been one of, if not the hottest teams in all of college football. The way that they've played the last couple of weeks, Kansas beating up on an Iowa State team, beating up on Iowa State last week, now taking care of BYU in the fashion that they did, winning off of a pooch punt. I've never seen that happen before. A quarterback punt, perfectly executed, probably not entirely on purpose, hits off of a BYU's player's helmet. They get 30 yards and a first down and goal off of that pooch punt. Perfectly executed by Jalen Daniels. He is really coming into his own. The problem with Kansas all season long has been their turnovers. They've cut down on that a lot, especially in the last couple weeks. They need to win out to be bowl eligible, but you see why this team was ranked at the beginning of the season. The Big 12 is crazy, and Kansas might continue to knock off some of these top teams. They've now taken out BYU this week. BYU no longer undefeated thanks to Kansas. Kansas is on a rampage. They've almost eliminated Iowa State. They're still alive for a Big 12 title. Long shot there, but they're still alive. BYU, now if you look at the AP poll, actually is not even a top 4 seed. BYU would be number 12, and Boise State would be the 4th seed with a bye because of this loss to Kansas. Kansas is on a roll. They're our number 5 winner this week, and this is just a very fun team to watch. They're very dangerous, and I see no reason why they can't finish this season out. I know they got a tough schedule coming up, but still, should be fun. Our number 4 winner of the week, we're giving it to a Group of 5 program here that's been on quite the roll, arguably the best Group of 5 program. It's Tulane. I know that Boise and Ashton Genty are the number 1 Group of 5 team. In fact, we have a Group of 5 power ranking top 5 coming up when we end up doing our NCAA top 25 later on in the show, and you'll see where I have these ranked. But Tulane getting a 45-0 win over a Navy squad that, at least offensively, is really hard to shut down. They've gone through their skids a little bit. They obviously started off as one of the last undefeated teams. Now we take a look at where Navy is. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. They just get shut out by Tulane, and Tulane with that win has clinched a spot in the American. Now, this is a outlandish proposal, but it is not at all impossible for 2 Group of 5 schools to get in with the way that the Big 12 is playing itself. I wouldn't be shocked if somehow, say Colorado loses a game to Kansas later on this season, and then Colorado ends up winning the Big 12 auto bid. Maybe there's a chance that they don't even get in. Maybe there's 2 Group of 5 schools that get in this season, and that possibility is looking more and more likely with the way that Tulane is playing. Tulane is the number 4 winner of the week. Number three winner of the week, that is going to go to Georgia. Georgia had another one of their big tests. Georgia, after feeling disrespected, that was the conversation all week. The first team out, the Georgia Bulldogs at number 12. The big controversy over that, they had something to say. They host Tennessee in Athens. They end up taking care of business, winning by 14 points. A huge win for Georgia against a really talented SEC team in Tennessee. The SEC is going through it right now. They're cannibalizing each other, and you can see it represented in the rankings. I know we don't have the college football rankings up, but last week, 4 of the top 5 were from the Big Ten. I don't expect that to change. I don't expect the top 5 to change much. We take a look at the AP poll, it's still the same. The SEC still has 4 schools in there, but they're all hanging out at the bottom. They're all barely holding on. Georgia gets a huge win this week, probably solidifies themselves in the playoffs, but we don't know what's going to happen. They like I've been saying all season, they're the 1 3-loss team that I think could even get in aside from a conference champion. We'll see what happens though. Georgia is the 3rd winner of the week. And number 2 and number 1, we're going to combine together. Number 2, I put Ashton Jeanty. He once again is just insane. Ashton Jeanty is on a Heisman case. He's on a roll with Boise State. Another 3 touchdowns, another 130-plus yard performance. He has been held to he is yet to be held under 130 yards this entire season. That is ridiculous. He's broken all the records for Boise State right now, and he is in that Heisman conversation for real for a reason. Like, we take a look at what Boise State is doing, it's a lot on the back of Ashton Jeanty. I see people disrespecting him. Oh, he gets 50 carries a game. That's why he's doing this. Who cares how many carries a game he gets? You go back to some of these great running backs, they get 50 carries a game. He's also still averaging against 8-man boxes, 9-man boxes. He's putting up these numbers. Over 130 yards in every single game. And people are saying he's out because he only runs for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's ridiculous. Ashton Jeanty is the number 2 winner. He solidifies his case as at least the runner-up in the Heisman with as long as he continues these performances. And that leads us to number 1. Like I said, they kind of get combined for me. My number 1 winner of the week, it's Travis Hunter. Hits the Heisman pose, much like Ashton Jeanty does. Rushes for a touchdown, has an interception. They're giving him a lot of credit for that interception. His teammate made an amazing play, and he was just there to gather it up. It was a great play by both of them, but still, he didn't have his greatest day receiving, but what he's able to do at all levels of the field on impact, his impact on offense and defense is insane. He gave up his first touchdown of the season, just one all season, as a guy that plays the entire game. He doesn't stop. His motor is insane. Travis Hunter is the number 1 winner of the week. The way that he plays football is just a joy to watch. Travis Hunter has made himself the Heisman favorite, and I'm very glad that this year it's not going to go to a quarterback. Or I would be very mad, I should say, if it went to a quarterback this year. You have a battle between one of the best running back performances, single season performances that has ever been put on a college football field, and an athlete in Travis Hunter who's playing 90% of his over 90% of his team's snaps, being incredibly effective on both offense and defense. Highlight reel catches, insane defender. This is the battle between them two. And if it goes to anyone else, I'm quite honestly going to be very angry. They're my number 1 and number 2 winners of the week. It's a lot of fun to watch college football this year. Lots and lots of playoff implications coming up this week. But before we get into that, we have a quick break. Coming up next, we have our Week 12 losers. 5 losers. We just went through 5 winners: Kansas, Tulane, Georgia, Ashton Jeanty, and Travis Hunter. We've got our 5 losers coming up next. Make sure you stick around for that here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, November 18th. We have a lot. If you're just tuning in, we just finished going over the winners from last week of college football. In this segment, we turn our attention to the other side of things. We just went over the biggest winners. Now we take a look at the biggest losers in this segment. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, November 18th. But like I was saying, we have our top 5 losers coming up. At number 5, I have another crazy weekend in college football. We have a team that eliminated themselves, a team that needed to win out, already had a bit of a tough time getting in without that conference championship game, but a team that got themselves eliminated in Washington State. Washington State has been hanging around in our top 25 for a while. They got all the way up to number 22, I believe. That was last week, their highest ranking. They've been hanging around near the bottom. They've been a team that has been dominating just about anybody else. Their one loss this season had come against Boise State, a very close loss to Boise State, but a team that's been dominating just about anybody else. Washington State had New Mexico this week, and it looked like they were going to win. They end up blowing a big fourth quarter lead, losing to New Mexico, and all but obliterating their chances of making the college football playoffs. It already was going to be a tough road for them, and what makes them one of the top 5 losers is because they needed to win out, and even if so, they probably would not have made it, if I'm being honest, but now they actually have no chance. I still see the AP poll has them ranked. I think at this point, the college football playoff poll should not, because I don't think they have a chance to get in, and it should only be consisted of the top 25 teams with a chance to get in, at least in my opinion. That's how I think they should do it. Washington State, the 5th biggest loser of the week. At number 4, we have the Big 12. We kind of talked a little bit about it when we talked about Tulane, but the reason I have the Big 12 as a loser this week is not because just BYU went down. It's not because Kansas is on a roll. It's not because Arizona State took out Kansas State and all but eliminated them from anything but an auto bid. It's because all of 4 of their contenders, Kansas State, Colorado, Arizona State, BYU, all 4 of them have their flaws. They've all gone through the punches, and they've all played each other, beaten each other up, and they've made it so that only one of them is going to get it. It's not going to be a 2-bid league, and that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes that's just how you just have to roll with the punches, and the Big 12 has kind of punched themselves out of a 2-bid league. I think they are they're a kind of league that has a lot of talent. I think it's kind of going a little bit swept under the rug, if I'm being honest. This Arizona State team is awesome. They're just now starting to get their respect. I think I would be shocked if they weren't ranked this week. They should have been ranked last week. You have a team in Colorado that I think is getting a little bit disrespected. Their one loss coming very close to a Kansas State team that's been up there for a while. Kansas State takes a tough loss. I still think they'll find a way to stick in the rankings. Again, Arizona State is a very good football team, and BYU loses their first game of the season in a kind of gimmicky way to Kansas. They still are the number 1 seed by the AP poll. That's all we have to go off of as of today. So they're still presumed to win that Big 12 and get that playoff spot, but the Big 12 is in danger of not even getting a single bid. If the American continues to play like they are with both Tulane and Army, if both of those teams win out, and then say Tulane ends up winning after Army gets a massive win over Notre Dame, maybe there's 2 Group of 5 schools in and nobody from the Big 12. That would be insane, but honestly, the way you look at it now, it's not even that hard to imagine. I think that's the chaos scenario that's most likely to happen, and the Big 12 might be the odd ones out right now, and that sucks for them. They have a lot of really good teams in that conference. Kind of going along those same lines, sticking in the Big 12 for our number 3 loser of the week, we have Kansas State. They get absolutely destroyed at home to an Arizona State team that needed that win badly. Kansas State now only has a tiebreaker over Colorado. They basically they need a lot of help to get in. They were looking at a chance to make that Big 12 title game. Now their hopes are gone. They play a little bit too sloppy, a little bit too inconsistent, and it seems to bite them every couple of weeks, where they seem to grind out a win at the end, but it's not happening this week. Kansas State, 3rd biggest loser. At number 2, we go to LSU. They've now lost 2 straight games, one to Alabama in brutal fashion, and now they lose one more, this time to Florida. DJ Lagway is awesome. That is a really good Florida team, and they're starting to all put it together. It's great news that they ended up keeping Billy Napier. He's going to start to build something as long as he keeps his guys through this year in the transfer portal. Some receivers are coming in to help them in the passing game. That defense is playing really good. They're flying around the football, but LSU now has lost 2 straight. And somehow they're still alive in the SEC. But if they had won this game, they had a very easy path to at least the SEC title game. They win that game, they just need to win out, and then they're in. Instead, they lose. They need help to get in. They're all but eliminated at this point. LSU barely holding on to playoff hopes. They're our number 2 loser of the week. And number 1, it goes to BYU. BYU was ranked in the top 10. They were the number 5 team in the nation for me. They lose to a red-hot Kansas team. And like I said, it really hurts not just them, but the Big 12 as a whole. This list is filled with Big 12 teams that took a tough loss this week. BYU, not only are they no longer undefeated, their magical season done, but now in the AP poll at least, and again, it's not the official rankings, but it's all I have to compare right now, they've dropped to 14. They are now that 5th conference champion. They're still in the playoffs, but they have a tough road ahead. They still have to play a couple more tough teams, and they still need to win out. This is not a guaranteed playoff spot anymore for them, and I'm not so convinced that they make it. That was a brutal loss for them. Their offense looked the worst it's been all season. They weren't able to get anything done against a Kansas team, like I said, is red hot right now. BYU, the biggest loser of the week. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who was the biggest winner? Who was the biggest loser? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to our very own college football top 25. We got a group of 5 top 5 as well, and we'll take a look at what at least my playoff picture would stand right now. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.